Hello, this is Gregory Morgan. Welcome to Love Talk. The purpose of Love Talk is to share with you the experience gained through a lifetime of transformational workshops and quite a bit of education in psychology, neurology, neuro-linguistic programming. That's a mouthful, I understand, if English is your second language or third language. Neuro meaning neurons or neurological. Linguistic meaning language. And programming, meaning literally that your brain is operating on a program. Just like a computer does, it has predictable and set ways of responding to stimuli. Basically, that thing you call your mind is pretty much non-existent in the sense that it is a stimulus and response reactivation machine. In other words, when you are stimulated by anything from your senses, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, meaning you see, hear, or feel something, or you taste something, you have a whole stack, if you will, of previous experiences. Now, some of these previous experiences weren't even your experiences. You never actually had the experience, but it's genetically programmed into your subconscious mind, and so you have the ability to instantly scan and refer to all similar situations that have ever happened to you and instantly produce a reaction, in other words, a reenaction of a response that had you survive or get through that moment. Okay, so that's a mouthful, I understand, but you and I are constantly looking out into the world or listening out into the world, interacting out into the world, and we are constantly bombarded by thousands and millions of bits of information. Now, your brain can only process about 7 of those, 5 to 7 bits of information at the same time. In other words, you can be aware of light and sound and smell and what somebody's saying and your feelings about it, and that pretty much is overwhelming right there. Anything more than that you're processing requires an expanded awareness, or another way of saying that is an expanded consciousness. In other words, being so present in the moment that not only are you aware of and interacting, and the truth is basically reacting to your surroundings, your environment, your relationships, your financial situation, the news on television, the words that you're hearing me say right now. You're comparing it constantly to an infinite stack of previous experiences. That's why I say reenacting. The re part means it's happened before and now you're doing it again. You're reacting to stimuli. So, backing up a little bit, I'm saying that your brain, my brain, the human brain, and the automatic nervous system, and by automatic, I mean there are things that you are doing constantly that you are not in control of. They're on automatic. Your heartbeat's on automatic. Your appetite is on automatic. Your sleep patterns, when you get tired, that's kind of automatic. There's chemicals in your brain that tell you go to sleep now, you're tired. For the most part, sexual stimulation is automatic. Your lungs, your breathing is automatic. So there's many things. All of your bodily functions are automatic, and that's really a good thing. That's great. Okay, that is what I call the human animal. Okay, the animal part of us. Thank God we have it, or we wouldn't be alive, right? Thank God you have this animal part of you that's taking care of itself, that is breathing itself and heart beating itself and doing whatever it needs to do to stay alive. However, without moving into the human being part of yourself, the higher consciousness, the more refined, the more sophisticated, the more humane part of your awareness and your consciousness, you are destined to basically react to the world. React to the world, react to the stimuli, and it is predictable, and there's a predictable, almost certain outcome to your life. It's what would be your default life. Like when you get a computer, there's some programs that are in there. You know, the manufacturer puts in some programs that they think you would like. Some of the programs are designed to have you buy the upgrade, right? Some of the programs are designed to have you become dependent on them, you know, and so they give you a 3-month free trial or something. But then later, you know, you go ahead and buy it almost by compulsion or by need. So you and I come with default programming. We come with certain things that we are inclined to do naturally that we didn't even learn, and some of the things that are conditioned into us by our teachers, adults, parents, religious leaders, and because we live in an environment or a culture that is already pre-programmed before we get there, we adapt to that programming, and so that becomes another way in which you and I get programmed from the very beginning, right from the start. How do you think you learned how to talk and walk and all of those things that you do naturally? If you weren't born into a group of humanoids that walked upright, and you were instead born into some four-legged creatures with a human body, even though you would have the capacity and the ability and the neurological capacity to walk upright on your feet, you would walk on your hands like whatever raised you. Okay, and this has been shown where there have been rare cases of children who were raised by wild animals. They walk around on their hands and feet and eat with their face like an animal. Okay, because that's how they were conditioned by their environment to respond. Okay, or to reenact to their environment. So where am I going with this? I started off saying the greatest part of my education has to do with neuro-linguistic programming. And so a lot of people get stuck on this programming part, okay? You are already programmed. You have been being programmed all of your life. And now that we're at a place where we're talking about love talk, we're talking about love, the word love has, okay, this is the linguistic part, the word love has embedded in it so much meaning that we don't know if a dog has this, or a cow, or a lizard, or a bird. We don't know. I submit that they do not. And I know listen, I've got 2 dogs. I love them, and I say, and they love me. Okay, but if I stop feeding them and paying attention to them, that stuff that they do that looks like love goes away. Okay, if you stop feeding the dogs that love you and taking care of them, they'll go love somebody else, okay, because they have developed an instinct for survival. So without getting into that, I do believe that there is a human capacity to love, and that the word love is infused with so many meanings. Some of them I'll mention, because this is love talk, right? Neuro-linguistic talk. So love talk has to do with those meanings that we fill love with. Loyalty, respect, honor, dignity, forgiveness, affinity, affection, compassion, trust. I can make a long list of words, all of which stimulate different parts of your brain, different parts of your neurology. All of those words are embedded in and included in the higher meaning of what we mean when we say love. So when I decided to call this show Love Talk, it is really about that. So to go back to neuro-linguistic programming, okay, how your mind got programmed in the first place was largely through language. Now, most of what I'm saying, you have already forgotten. Most of what I'm going to talk about, you will forget. However, if you listen from the point of view of, do I agree with this or don't I? Is this true or not true? Does this guy know what he's talking about? And how would I know if he knows what he's talking about? And I don't know. I've heard this before, or something like that. Okay, any of those ways of listening will not give you any value whatsoever, and consequently everything that's being said here will just get filed in a file in your memory of not useful material, or didn't compare to what I knew from the past, or I already knew that, so your listening will shut down and you'll only hear half of what's there, but you'll forget that anyhow. So none of that would be a very useful way to listen to this show or anything that you consider might have some impact on your life, okay? An impact on the way you have been programmed, all right? The life you have, whether you love your life and you're excited and you can't wait to get up in the morning and tell everybody about how wonderful life is, if that's not you, or if you hate your life, or maybe your life's okay, but it's sort of ho-hum, or maybe your life is filled with struggles and challenges, and really, when you look out into the future, it looks kind of hopeless. Regardless of where you are in your life right now, you are there as a result, a direct result. The life you have is a result of choices that you have made. Choices that you have made. Now, you may say, well, no, I didn't choose this, that, or the other. I didn't choose to be a man. I didn't choose to be a woman. I didn't choose to be tall or short or fat. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. That is a very, very limited point of view. If you think that you had no choice about any of those things that I just mentioned, that is a very limited point of view. Now, I will grant you that the universe has a sort of random and capricious and sometimes mischievous way of interacting with human beings. There are things that are happening that seem to be random and capricious. However, what you see, what you hear, what you experience, how you respond or react, and I'll talk some more about the difference between those two in just a moment, but response is not reaction. It is not. It is two different roads that you may choose to take at every instant in your life. You may choose to react, which is automatic, and it really doesn't require anything from you. You'll just do it anyhow. If something comes at your face, your eyes will blink. You don't have to do anything about that. It'll just do it anyhow. So you can relax, because if you just want to have an easy, comfortable life, even though perhaps it may occur to be meaningless and have a lot of challenges in it, you don't need to be responsible. You just keep reacting. Stuff will happen and you can react to it, and you don't have to be responsible for your reactions. Things will happen and you'll get mad. Things will happen and you'll get sad. Things will happen and you'll get happy. And you won't have any responsibility in the matter. You can just keep saying, well, life is just happening. It's happening to me. I'm a victim of it. Or I'm just, an observer or a participant in it. I have nothing to say or no control over what's happening. And that is a possible way of living your life. And I'm going to assert from my experience that probably 99.9% of people are living in that way. Why? Because that's how you learned. That's how you were conditioned and programmed. The idea of thinking outside of that occurs as insane. Occurs as some kind of mystical or magical thinking. Many people who have thought outside of that pattern of thinking were called mystics or prophets or ADHD or crazy, insane, okay, or geniuses. But in fact, they're just choosing to think outside of a certain pattern that has been programmed into humanity. When you live inside of a certain bubble, anything outside of that bubble looks like a miracle. But if you live outside of that bubble, if you live outside of that programmed, stuck way of being that is going around in the same old cycle, repeating itself, when you break free from that and break through that and begin to actually realize who you really are and the enormous power and choice that you have in life, in other words, you begin to take responsibility for your life, well, suddenly you realize that you have an enormous amount of freedom, a great deal of power, and the ability to choose what you react to and what you don't react to. And this point of view will determine, one of the things that I always say is that context is determinant. It is fundamental. The context in which you live your life will determine the life you have. Just like the shape of the bowl or cup or glass that I pour liquid into will determine the shape of the water. If your life was like water and the context was like what you poured the water into, you see, context means frame of mind, matrix of thinking. I'm looking for another word that suddenly slipped my mind, but it'll come to me. But anyhow, context works very well. The context in which you are, paradigm is the word I was thinking of. A paradigm is a fixed way of thinking. It is a context for thinking, you see. If you and I were medical doctors, we would tend to observe things in terms of their chemical balances or imbalances, or the chemical structure of things. And if somebody had a certain illness or a physical malfunction in some way, we would immediately begin. If you and I were medical doctors, we would immediately begin to discuss possible medicinal cures or solutions to that problem, you see. But if we were psychologists, for example, we might discuss what's going on with that person, what issues are happening with that person that's causing them to have this illness, this physical malfunction. Why do they always have headaches? Or why is their stomach always upset? We might look into if there was some psychological stimuli that was going on there, you see. And if we were philosophers, we would talk about the philosophical meaning of it and so forth, you see. So when I say paradigm, I'm talking about the frame of mind or frame of reference that is your frame of reference for your life. So if your frame of reference for your life is, I'm a Muslim, or I'm a Christian, or I'm a incest survivor, or I'm a Jew, or I'm a Hindu. You see, those frames of mind give you a point of view about your life, a way of interpreting your life, and it's quite useful. I don't want to say that they're not useful, but just like a ladder is useful for climbing over a wall so that you can get a better view of what's on the other side, can you see how it might be a little limiting if you then went around, you were so happy about that you saw another point of view, that you went around telling everyone that your ladder was the only ladder and the only way to get over the wall, and that everybody else that didn't climb over the wall using the ladder that you climbed over the wall with were wrong or condemned or going to hell, or that you hated them. I mean, that's insane. You see how crazy that would be? So a frame of reference, or a philosophy, a religion, even a context of a profession, no matter how great that profession is, whether it's a medical profession, a philosophical, a psychological, sociological, anthropological, all of those logical ways of looking at things are simply a ladder to get you over the wall. In other words, to take you to a higher point of view so that you could look down upon what, in the past were enormous challenges that seem to rise above you. You can use a context, a philosophy, a way of seeing, a new paradigm to gain some altitude. When they tell somebody to get over it, that language means to get above it so that you're looking down upon this issue, right? To rise above an issue means to get over it, right? When they say, oh, I hope you get over it soon, meaning I hope you're able to look down. And when you think of it, those things that were enormous problems for you in the past, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, you have gotten over. You're over it. You look back upon it, you look at it, that boy or girl that broke your heart when you were a child, and you look back upon it and you go, well, I was a kid, and I fell in love, and, somebody broke my heart. You can laugh about it now. Now, I've met hundreds of people who are still carrying that heartbreak around with them, and who are still projecting this heartbreak onto, even though they're 30, 40, 50 years old, projecting this heartbreak not only onto their wives or husbands, they're teaching it to their kids, like, watch out, because, you're going to get your heart broke. Well, in other words, we start programming future generations to have the same attachments to painful experiences that we never got over. Okay? So the whole point of Love Talk is really just to offer you, not the only way, not the best way, not the newest way, but another way of viewing your life in a more expanded context. So I'm not interested in having people rise above, however that may be something that would be a bonus, a bonus effect of what I'm proposing in these shows. but to expand to include. So I'm going to give you two visual images. One is that there's a wall or an obstacle or a block to your happiness and well-being, and you can grab onto a philosophy or a way of being or some knowledge or a religion to attempt to rise above it. In other words, to get over an obstacle. Okay, so there's one image, a ladder leaning against a wall that you climb up, and then you claim that this ladder is the way and the only way and the best way, right? People get attached to the ladder. What I'm offering is very different. What if you expanded your point of view, your vision of yourself and your life and your place in it, expanded to such an extent that not only did that obstacle seem like a small thing, you actually could embrace that obstacle as being a precious part of your overall experience in life because it gave you the gift of looking inside yourself to find hidden resources that you had no idea that you had. What if you could expand your consciousness rather than just try to mount above obstacles? Would that be a good deal? That's what we're offering at Embrace Growth, and that's what I'm offering you on Love Talk. Let's take this call. Hello, thank you for watching, and you're live on the air.
Hello. A very big obstacle is that my sister passed away and she was 7 years younger than me, and we had a very special relationship, and she was like my sister, my child, my best friend, and suddenly in a car accident she passed away.
Wow. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you so much. And I was listening to you that you were saying that we can embrace these kind of obstacles, but
yes,
for me, I don't know even if I can handle it. I don't know if these kind of obstacles are too embarrassed or something. And yes, I want to know what I should do.
Okay. Thank you for your trust in calling to ask me this question, because I believe that you don't get through life without losing some people in life, right? I mean, we all eventually lose somebody. Usually our parents, but it's it's unusual to lose a sister, especially one that you're very close to and that was part of your life, yeah? So your question reveals to me a point of view that you have that may be limiting you, okay? And you're saying, how do I overcome this obstacle? I don't know how I could embrace this obstacle, yes?
Right.
So the first thing I would like to offer you is that rather than calling this occurrence in your life an obstacle, which means it's like a barrier, something you bump into and can't get past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Words are very powerful, and they create images because every word, including the word obstacle, has an image related to it, right? Now, if I say the word obstacle, you and your sister are going along in life, and then she leaves, and then you start calling that an obstacle, what you're telling your subconscious mind is, I'm stopped, I'm stuck, I can't move forward, right?
But it is the reality now these days in my life. I cannot do anything. I have no energy, and
I understand.
all the time I'm thinking that it's very good that if I die too. You know what I mean.
How long ago did she die?
3 months.
Okay, well, that's too soon to even begin to think about not grieving. Grieving is an important process, and I recommend that you get in touch with maybe not the same people in your family who are grieving, but there are groups that grieving has got like 6 or 7 steps to it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know where you are, right? So, and if you try to skip over it and you don't allow yourself to experience it and you try to just move on, it can be damaging to you because you will carry around something that is incomplete, and you will continually try to subconsciously find ways of completing that. And some of those subconscious drives can be so compelling. If you're one kind of person, you might be compelled to drink. Another kind of person might be compelled to sleep all day. Another kind of person might be compelled to work all the time. Do you see what I mean? So there's no set way that people deal with grief and loss, but you have your way, and it will come naturally to you. You're saying, I don't have any energy and I don't feel like doing anything. Okay. So part of the process of embracing is first stop calling it an obstacle. Call it an opportunity to grow. I see this occurrence, and I'm speaking as somebody who lost both of my parents at a relatively early age. I've lost a number of people in my life that were way too young to go, in my mind. And what I have discovered is that they're not gone at all. Oh, yeah, I don't get to hang out with them in the physical world, but that's not the only world that you and I live in. And so had she not passed into that other world, you might not have awakened to the fact that you have a whole other part of your conscious that is alive and awake and aware and very capable in another part of your world that is not necessarily physical, you see. Do you know what I'm talking about? And that pain is a signal of growth. Now, you and I know the difference, if we really listen closely, to pain that is actually causing harm or pain that is causing growth. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, and I think it's both for me.
Yes. Well, people who allow pain to cause harm is voluntary. Listen carefully. Pain is unavoidable. You do not get through life without pain. Sorry, something painful is going to happen sooner or later. So pain is unavoidable. Suffering is voluntary. Suffering is where you keep the pain around. You indulge in the pain. You embrace the pain not so that you can complete it and have it wash through you and restore yourself on a higher, more complex, more vibrant, more spiritual, more fully conscious and aware level. And lots of pain will do that. There's lots of kinds of pain that will do that. And it will renew you and cause you to become a more awake, alive, and fully actualized human being. Or some people, they embrace the pain, but like they hold on to it. You know, they feel guilty about it. They poor me about it or something like that. You see, now, don't hear me wrongly. There is a time for that, okay?
Okay.
And that's right after the death of a person. There's a time where, hey, just allow yourself to have all of the human emotions that you're having. If you need to cry, you should cry until you run out of Kleenex. You should cry all you want to cry. Just completely cry it out. And then you should laugh whenever you want to laugh. Don't feel, some people feel guilty because something happens and it makes them laugh, or they're suddenly happy. And then they go, oh, well, somebody just died, so I shouldn't be happy. And that's a cultural thing with the Persians. I should wear black. I should, be sad all the time. And then every day on the day that they died, I should be sad some more, right? Be happy when you're happy. Be sad when you're sad. When you're sleepy, go to sleep. When you're hungry, eat. In other words, allow yourself to be, because part of you died with her. Now that sounds melodramatic, but physiologically, it's a fact. Did you spend a lot of time together?
Yes.
You grew up, right? You grew up together.
We spend a lot of time together. Sometimes I feel that now I'm 7 because I was 7 when she was born.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very strange because I'm 34, but sometimes I feel I'm again. It's very strange.
I understand. And so just embrace those strange things. I think it's great what you're doing because you're being conscious of what's happening. And that's a good sign. There's what's happening in the world and what's happening in my body and what's happening in my emotions and what's happening in my psychological makeup and my point of view about things. But then there's another part of me that can observe all this and become aware of it and not necessarily get sucked down into it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So, and this has been my experience because I have been through some of the things that you've been through. I have a brother who just disappeared, and he disappeared for like 12 years. He just dropped, and he had 6 sons. He now has something like 14 grandchildren. My point in sharing my experience with you was not to talk about myself, but to talk about that I experienced this loss. And this loss caused me to have to go inside and listen very intently to a part of myself that normally, even though it's playing in the background, even though, I just posted something on Facebook this weekend, I said, God is whispering to you all the time. Are you listening? It's always there. So I just began to tune into this more internal voice, this internal part of myself, and that's connected to other things. And this, I believe, is that sometimes very bright. By very bright, I mean when people talk about this person, they say how beautiful they were, how loving they were, how happy they were, how what an incredible person they were. Was your sister like this?
Yes.
Was she a happy person?
She was very happy, very active.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very often, very bright individuals. Now, this is my interpretation. I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm saying this is my experience, okay? My experience is that very bright people, sort of what you might call enlightened, meaning there's sort of a light around them, come into the world for a short time. They come into the world and make everybody fall in love with them. They show everybody how awesome life can be, and then boom, they go. And that is their gift. They do this as a gift. They're there to wake you up to a whole other inner world. And it's certainly not there to make you sad. The greatest way you could honor your sister is to be happy and joyous and loving and lovable and adorable, just like she was. Your own version of how she was. To take on those qualities that inspired you, those qualities that had you love her, to integrate them into yourself. And now that they are no longer embodied physically as this person, you can embody them. I actually think that the term that you and I, we all use this term. You used it, I use it. We call it my life, right? I think it's a misnomer. I think it's a misspeaking. Because when I really look at my life, it's not my life anyhow. My life belongs to the universe. I'm just borrowing this thing that we call Gregory Morgan for a short time. All of humanity is only like a blip on the scale of all time. This entire thing, every great person, every horrible person, Hitler and Gandhi and, every human being, every horrible thing that's ever happened and every wonderful thing that's ever happened on this little tiny dot that's in the middle of nowhere, We're just borrowing this experience from the vastness of the universe for a moment, a tiny moment. A million light years from here, looking at the planet Earth, what time is it? We say here in Los Angeles that it's 10 minutes till 2 p.m. on this particular day. But is that true if you expand your awareness to include all things, not just the things that are happening in what you call your life? Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Because
So I'm
very into these things, and I'm reading a lot about these things.
So I'm using words designed to expand your awareness and your consciousness even as we speak. That's what I've taken on as being my purpose in life, is to cause people to wake up to who they really are. So, I hope that this has made a difference, and that instead of calling your sisters passing into another form of energy, another form of, this cell phone is made out of spiritual energy. If you got down with a electron microscope, there's not even anything in here. It's just completely, every molecule is completely just energy connecting electrons or protons together. There's actually no substance there. It's just a very concentrated form of it. So a human being is just a very concentrated form of spiritual substance, of ideas, of energy. And so when somebody goes back into energy, the spiritual being that they were remains. The mark that they left in this world stays. And so this is why I'm always encouraging people. That's why I create a company called Embrace Growth. That's why we have a workshop called Honor, Integrity, and Mastery for Men. And that's why we do things left to make an impact now, because this is the only time you have. So your sister gave you a great gift. That's what I'm saying. She gave you a great gift. And you should allow yourself to experience the entire range of human emotions for as long as you need to do that. But you also need to be conscious that even that has a time when it's over. It passes. It becomes a great gift that you received at some point in your life that you're always thankful for, and you begin to realize that this person has never left you. My mother and my father are always with me. They're just right over here if I ever need them. Now, I don't go around being always conscious of that, but whenever I need to be conscious of that, I am. And every now and then I can feel my father reaching to speak to me.
Yes.
Is that a fantasy or is that real? I choose to say it's real. You see?
It's real too.
And sometimes I ask him, I go, Dad, Father, tell me what to do. And I say that if that's possible for me, that's possible for you too. I'm no different.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your trust. Thank you. I've been talking today about neuro-linguistic programming as an opening, as a pathway, as a way of showing you how really how you think about things and how you speak about things and what you listen to, what you allow yourself to partake in conversations, not only affects your life and the results that you produce. That's the low end level of it. It actually determines your life and the results that you produce. So, in speaking with a previous caller, we talked about an event, and she kept using the word obstacle. Well, if you keep talking about the obstacles in your life, or if you talk about the issues in your life, and then you get around other people and, you got an issue, I got an issue, let me tell you about my issues. And then you have that issue too? Okay, so then it becomes a conversation about issues. First of all, something that doesn't even exist. I'm letting you sit with that for a minute. Issues do not exist. They have no existence. There's an agreement in the scientific world, at least, okay, that things exist when they are measurable. That means they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They have substance in space and time. In other words, you're able to see it, measure it, and somehow know about it. So, a good example that would lead to it would be, okay, this coffee cup, we could say it exists because it has a beginning and a middle and an end. There's a place where it exists, and there's a place over here where it doesn't exist. And if it wasn't for this place where it does not exist, how would we know that this was here? Okay, very simple. How would you know that this coffee cup, otherwise the whole universe would be coffee cup, right? So existence is measurable. It has a place where it is, and it has a place where it is not. Now that's both in time and space. So we just talked about the space of a coffee cup. Now let's talk about the time of the coffee cup. There was a time when it didn't exist. It was an idea formulated in somebody's mind someplace. Maybe they had a visual image of it. They had an idea. They drew it on paper, or they talked about it, and they caused through language, because drawings are language also, aren't they? Writing, drawings, paintings, sketches, those are a type of language, okay? So they languaged this coffee cup, they talked about it, they shared it, and then eventually, through however many people were involved with, it came into being. Now, it's something I can actually live with. It has real substance in space and time. We could talk about it, and there was a time when it did not exist in the past, a time where it does exist in the present, and there will be a time, sometime, some unpredictable or unknowable time in the future when it no longer exists. I could drop it on the floor and break it, and it would no longer be a cup. So we could say that time could be very soon, right? We could put it under a car tire and crush it, and it wouldn't exist. There's a lot of things we could do to cause the end in time of a coffee cup, for example. So we as human beings have the ability to talk about things that don't exist. And then we imagine them, and we put images and thoughts around them so that they begin to gain mass and substance. Mass and substance. So you can talk about something that has no existence. If we cut you open, would we see any issues? No, there would be no issues in there. Okay, so if we filmed you, with a hidden camera 24 hours a day, would we see an issue? No, we would see you doing certain behaviors and not doing other behaviors. We would see you interacting with people in a given way. You would say things and not say other things, and you would do things and not do other things. We would see real things, if you would, but we would not see something that you could call issues. Issues don't exist. That's my point, okay? So if you keep talking about issues as if they exist, and then you hang out with other people that talk about issues as if they exist, what happens is that issues actually becomes a part of your language, a part of your life, and then you actually introduce yourself as these issues, as if they were real. It's totally bizarre. So it's almost like, you get in a relationship, you meet a guy or a gal that you like, or maybe it's with your husband or your wife or your children, and very soon after you begin to talk with them, maybe if you like to use this word issues, you say, well, I have an issue with this. This is my issue. You'll say that, like as if it were real and it was a real thing. you know? And that's about like me saying, this is my rabbit, Harvey here. Have you met my rabbit, Harvey? Listen, my Harvey rabbit likes to eat carrots. And so I began to talk about Harvey here, as I'm sure you have. Do you have a Harvey? You see what I mean? So it's like talking about this invisible, non-existent thing as if it were real, and actually going along with it and playing and pretending. Playing and pretending. I want to use those words. You play and pretend like something is real that is imagined, and then give that non-reality substance and mass, okay? My Harvey doesn't like your Harvey, you know? My rabbit doesn't like your kangaroo. Or it's totally crazy. It's a funny way of talking when you're grounded in reality, and I like to spend as much of my time in reality as possible, because why? Because this is where all the power is. All the power for making a difference is always right here, right now. It's never over there somewhere else. It's always here and now. It's never in the past. It's never in the future. It's always where you are right now is the only place that you could ever make a difference. So if you spend 1 ounce, 1 calorie, 1 second of your time talking about your issues, well, there it goes again. That second will never come back. That moment is gone forever. You see, you don't have an infinite amount of time and space to make a difference in your life, to do something that actually brings grace and power and love and nobility and honor to this existence, to the thing that we share that's called life. You have an opportunity to do that at every moment, all the time. However, if you're stuck talking about the hypnotic notion that, you know, I have this issue and I have that issue, and, you know, I'm going to a doctor to talk about this issue, and you should go talk to a doctor about your issues, and my issues and your issues, they don't match, right? You know, or some people get together because, you know what, I got the same issue as you got. You know, you hate that, I hate that too. Oh, wow, we're like each other, right? Or you love this, I love that, but I hate this other thing, or I don't like him, or I don't like that, right? So people actually bond together and find reasons to join in with each other. That's called gathering mass and agreement. Gathering mass and agreement. So the more people that you hang out with that believe like you do, the more valid your imaginary, non-existent postulate seems. It seems more real because you have a lot of agreement. So we live in an agreement society, an agreement reality, an agreement thing. If I had that same cup conversation with a quantum physicist, we could have a pretty good argument about how, no, this cup does not exist. I propose that you begin to look at the language that you use and really begin to question the language that you use. We've spent most of the show talking about neurolinguistics and neurolinguistic programming, and I will leave you with this. How you store reality, how you sort reality, how you interact and comprehend reality is through internalized, stored, and sorted. They're not all glommed together in a big soup. And if they are, they're what we call crazy. Okay? Sorry. We don't know how to deal with you because your reality is so jammed together that, you know, you don't know the difference between brownies and shoe polish. You know, you're all mixed up. And so that's a whole nother issue. But if your reality is, if you're grounded in reality in the present moment, well, then you have no problem with that. I urge you to go to embracegrowth.com and to find out about the seminars and workshops. I wanted to share with you the expanded way of looking and speaking and listening, if you will, to the things that happen in your world that may seem like insurmountable obstacles, and begin to question, what could I learn from this? How could I grow from this? How could I take this painful or difficult or challenging experience, this challenge, how could I take that and become stronger, more powerful, more sophisticated, more wise, more knowledgeable, more vital, more fully self-expressed, more completely aware and conscious? How can I use this to stimulate my growth and development? And I challenge you to take on this. You are always being trained, and maybe you don't even know what you're being trained for. You may think, for example, like I did for the first part of my life, I thought I was, for many years of my life, I thought I was being trained to be a martial arts master, okay? Well, I found out that, that wasn't my true calling. It was just something along my way. I spent 15 years studying it, and now I realize that, you know what? That's not what I want to do. So I have 2 minutes left in the show, and I have a caller. I'm going to take this call, but I'm going to give you a really fast answer. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air. I got 2 minutes with you.
Okay. You were talking about issues, and I'm not married.
Yep.
And I want to be married.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're not married and you want to be married. And okay.
And I've been married before. I wish I didn't have that issue of feeling like I should be married, that I should just be okay where I'm at.
Well, maybe it's not an issue. Remember, I was saying stop calling it an issue.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that your heart desires. And maybe it's a higher calling. Maybe it is something that is calling to you, but you simply don't know how to accomplish it yet, right?
Right.
You know, there was a time you didn't know how to drive a car, but you had a calling to drive a car, and so you had to go learn how to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so this is something that calls to you. Doesn't sound like a bad thing. Sounds like a good thing, being married. I like being married, right?
I do too.
And so for whatever reason, you didn't know how to keep a marriage together in the past, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nobody taught you how. There's some skills to making a marriage work, and some of it's not pleasant, okay?
Yes.
Sometimes you got to bite your lip a lot, right? There's a lot of things that are not necessarily fun about marriage, but the overall package is a pretty good deal if you get with a person that shares your same values. I wish I could have a much longer conversation with you, and if you want to hold on the line, I will after the show. I've run out of time, but I'd love for other people to hear the answer to what I've got to say. But one thing I will tell you is that have you ever done one of our workshops?
No, I haven't.
I can tell you this. I found this to be a surprising statistic. Okay, I'm a Virgo, so I measure things, right? A surprising statistic was that 30%, that's almost a third of the women who take, single women who take our workshops end up getting married within the next 2 years.
Wow.
That's a surprising statistic.
That is.
I began to notice to my wife, she said, oh, so-and-so's getting married. So-and-so. It's like, somebody's always getting married. Are these people graduates? And she said, yeah, don't you remember? And she'll show me their name or their picture on Facebook or whatever. And I said, oh, she's getting married. So I said, I wonder how many there are. So I got out a list of all the people that had ever done the workshop. And I said, married, unmarried, married, right? And it was about a third. Now, I don't even know if my count was accurate, but it was about a third of the women, and they'd all been married within a 2-year period. So whatever we're doing in the workshop, it doesn't teach you how to get married, but it has you become the kind of magnetic woman that men will fall over themselves to be around.
Okay.
Okay? And then I have to do this disclaimer. Not everybody will get the same results.
Right.
But if you apply those principles in your life, you become the kind of woman that, listen, men will just want to be around a woman like that.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for calling. And if you want to hold on the line, I'll have a brief conversation with you after the show.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. This has been Gregory Morgan. You've watched Love Talk. I'll see you back here next week. Thank you.